Well, hello everyone and welcome to Momentum Finance channel. My name is Mo, and in this video I want to share with you how my wife and I are investing for our daughter's education and how based on the approach that we are taking, we envision that her portfolio in her registered education savings plan is going to grow to a whopping $150,000 if we maintain the approach that we are taking. And in fact, I'm going to try to share with you some of the strategies and tactics that we are taking in order to maximize her RESP account. As you can see here on the screen, currently our daughter's RESP account has a total amount of $23,492. This is despite the fact that our daughter is only 15 months. And how we actually managed to do this and why we started front loading her account is due to a few reasons. But more importantly, it is due to the compounding interest and the fact that we want to make sure her portfolio in her RESP grows to a much larger balance. The approach that we are taking is something that I read first through this article from Manulife Investment and Management. We've kind of adopted it and adapted it to some extent, but this is the gist of it. Essentially, it's more so focusing on how you can, if you have the means to do so, of course, provide a front loading into your RSP account. This is more so the option two that they talk about in this kind of article, which I will definitely include the link. But in a nutshell, what it suggests is that if you have the means to do so in the year one, where you're opening up the RESP account for your child, as an example, you can front load it by not only putting in the typical $2,500 that typically folks put, you can do so, but also add an additional $14,000 to that. So that's how you get the total amount of $16,500, 14,000 plus $2,500, bringing it to that total amount. You would still get the maximum amount that the government provides in terms of the Canada Education Savings Grant of the $500 in that year one. So if you think about that, that's $16,500 plus the 500 brings your total invested to $17,000 in year one. Now, from there onwards, in year two to year 14, you would continue to put that $2,500, the typical $2,500 each year, and you would get the 20% government match of $500. In other words, that becomes the total amount of government grants you get in years 2 to years 14 would become the total of $6,500 plus the total of $32,500. In other words, $2,500 per year multiplied by those 13 years that we have from year 2 to year 14. And lastly, on year 15, because you remember you have a maximum amount that you can contribute to an individual RESP is $50,000 of your money. So you're only left with the remaining $1,000 in year 15. And then for that, you're going to get the 20% match from the government of the amount of $200 because the maximum amount of CESG in the typical circumstances is $7,200. If you look at those totals between year 1 to year 15, by the year 15, you would max out that total amount of $7,200. Basically, for our daughters, what we've done in year one, when she was born, shortly after, we contributed the $2,500, got the $500 grant CESG. Then a few months after, we managed to put in the additional $14,000. Then during this time, we invested her amount, which I'm gonna showcase to you what we invested in. But in year two, as soon as the January of the next year started, we put in an additional $2,500 and then got the matching as well. So if you think about it, that brings the total to close to $20,000. In reality, when I looked back, she got closer to $500 or so, roughly $400 or so in terms of the dividend income since then. And then, of course, her portfolio has grown in terms of the total value too. So it's up by close to $3,000 in dollar value. In other words, it's up by 14.9%, which is quite decent. If you think about it, I opened this RESP account for her shortly after she was born. So we opened it up in around June of last year. Now, fast forward, we are in July, roughly in 1 year and 1 month. The account is up by close to 15%. We invested her entire account into XEQT, which is a very diversified, globally diversified, actually, exchange traded funds, investing in over 9,000 companies as underlying companies throughout the world, including companies in Canada, US, international, developed, as well as emerging markets. Super happy with that. That's how our account performed. Overall, she has a total number of 644 shares. Current last share price for XEQT was at $36.44. Her average share price, though, if I can show it to you, is at $31.70. First and foremost, I wanted to understand what is the average cost of an undergraduate program. So, looking to Statistics Canada, they do have this table based on tuition fees for the various degree programs. 2024 to 2025, so some of the latest data. They've tried to put it based on the current dollars. I was interested to see what's the current undergraduate tuition fees by field of study. In this case, we won't know what our daughter is going to be pursuing in terms of education, but let's say if she was to pursue engineering program. Based on 2024, 2025, the annual cost for the engineer program on average is close to $9,200. So let's just say for the ease of calculation, we round it up to $10,000 and we add another $5,000, let's say, for books, other fee, miscellaneous fees, and whatnot. I mean, this doesn't include, of course, any residential costs and whatnot. So let's say if she was to go to another city and if she needed to have dormitory costs or lodging or accommodation of that sort, that doesn't take that into account. We could separately calculate that. But for now, for easy math, let's say this is around $15,000 per year. For approximate cost of a 4-year program, that would bring the total to roughly $60,000 in today's dollar amount. Now we can take into account, of course, the fact that there would be, of course, inflation over the years and whatnot. But at the end of the day, remember the portfolio is also growing. I think even with that calculation, the fact that this portfolio is going to grow into a much larger position based on our estimate, that provides that safety net as well. Of course, we're going to monitor that, but I'm going to do a quick compound interest calculator here. We're currently 23. $1,500 as we saw. As I pointed out, we've already contributed the year 2 calculation, so I have to only allow for the growth, let's say from year 3 onwards. That gives us the option to contribute $2,500 per year plus the $500 that we're going to get from the government, bringing it to a total of $3,000. We do it in the beginning of the year, so that gives it for the whole year for the actually compounding. Given the roughly approximate 8% interest rate, in terms of if it was something for us to take into account in terms of return for the market, approximately with an annual compounding option, we do have 12 years left until we get to that for year 3 to year 14. That brings the total to $116,000. Of which you can say close to 56,000 plus of it is actually the interest earned. If we take that $116,000, so now let's just say that would be our $116,000 as our initial investments. Now from there on, remember we have one more year that we can contribute $1,000 plus the $200 from the government. And then as I mentioned, that would be 1 year of growth to bring us to end of the year 15. That grows to over $126,000. So if I now use that as a starting point, from year 15 to year 18, there's 3 more years left for the money to grow until our daughter gets to the year 18, where let's say potentially she's starting to get ready to go to a university. So that's 3 more years, but without any contribution, because we can't possibly put in any money, we are not allowed to. That would bring the total to well over $150,000. The RESP account is actually quite powerful because you get to utilize that for a lot of related costs associated with your child's education, not just purely their tuition or the books cost. It could also cover some of the costing associated with that, transportation and things of that nature. Of course, I'm not a tax professional. You have to do your due diligence and consult a tax professional to find out more, or visit CRA website. They have a lot of useful information of how you can interpret the costing associated with the RESP account. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. I hope this video was beneficial and hopefully provided you some insights in terms of how my family is approaching saving for our daughter's education. Hopefully at the time that she gets to that stage and she's ready to pursue her education, both in terms of undergraduate and possibly further down the road, postgraduate, if that's something that desires her. Thank you everyone for watching the video until the end, and I hope to see you all next time.